Welcome you all to yet another interesting generative AI talk. And this is what I love doing as a hobby. I like being an evangelist when it comes to AI, and I've been doing this for quite some time. Being in the industry, I wanted to also spread the word around AI and what kind of impact it is making. And luckily I had the opportunity to see the industry grow from where it was like 14 years ago to now, and it's a very interesting year, right, per se, because there are there have been decades in the past where only weeks of innovations were happening, right? And there are these weeks now in this very 2023 where decades of innovations are happening. And I'm so excited to be here, and I'm having sleepless nights because this field is keeping me so busy. And I've also been delivering programs at scale, and it's always interesting to see this field creating wonderful opportunities. And if you are wondering, hey, I always wanted to be a guy who's solving problems with data, but I never had that opportunity. Now GenAI is gotten mainstream, and people are it's easily accessible and you can learn it so quickly. And what we are going to do today is have a 1 hour power pack discussion where let's try to keep this as an interactive session. So I'll share lots of insights around generative AI. I'll try to sprinkle few real world applications and get you guys excited about um, a variety of GenAI application, because being a 1 hour session, we'll try to do justice to touch upon some of the key insights and also focus on some use cases. And I also tried making a mock-up use case on something which we all can easily relate to. So you see this code, you can scan and hit a thumbs up and join there for all these polls which we'll bring up. Now, I believe you see a deck. Um, this is part of the three-part webinar series that we were doing, and we did in the month of July 6th, 13th, and 20th. We did a three-part generative AI webinar series. The one was about demystifying Gen AI, and then we talked a lot about prompt engineering, which is one of the most important ways to interact with these large language models. Then we tried to put generative AI in action with some practical use cases and demos. So all these recordings are very well available on the YouTube channel, and this is going to be the fourth webinar in the series, and we want to keep continuing this because it's so interesting. And it's the session which we are going to do today, the real world applications of generative AI. You can imagine this to be an extension of the webinar 3, where we saw generative AI in action. But here I'm going to go a little bit more focused in bringing some insights from the estimations which have happened, and also with some of the real impacts, right, which we have measured across industries. And when you see those numbers, you will really be surprised, right? So when I saw it the first time, I got surprised. So let's do a quick icebreaker. Take a second to scan this, and I hope the poll would appear. And that it's a, as I said, it's a webinar series. I would like to know who are all repeat attendees here and who's new to the party. I believe you see a Mahima, can you confirm? Do you see a poll on screen?
Yes, I can see the poll.
Okay. Okay, someone attended too. Okay, go ahead, take a second. I think if you haven't really scanned and joined, please use this QR code on screen, or you can visit menti.com and use this code. Okay, there are a couple of first-time users. Nevertheless, we are not going to create any dependency with the previous sessions and say that you need to have a lot of background. But yes, it's always interesting to know who's a repeat attendee here. Okay, fair enough. I think slowly people have started joining in. Single digit has already become double digit. Go ahead, please. I see almost 50 of you, 50 plus online. just pull out the phones and scan this, because we are going to keep this interactive. So, and I will know, I would like to take some opinion as we go about what the ideas which we discuss. So take a second to scan and join the party. Okay, lot of first timers. Well, the topic itself is going to be a standalone one, but if you get a chance to go through the previous three, which we really managed to receive great feedback, and people were having that as those as enabler in this masterclass series. So this one we'll try to keep it very practical, and if you want to know some background around prompt engineering, or if you want to get more around what is happening around the world and connecting all the dots of these large language models to the traditional machine learning AI systems, you need to catch up with the first two. And okay, let's continue then. Yeah, I'm gonna I get a lot of you are first timers. Good to know. So let's take a second to think about this particular game. So this is Alpha. This is a game Go, and it is famous in China. And the deep mind from Google, they made a system called AlphaGo. And literally, if you think about those days, 7, 8, 9 years ago, AI literally slowly started penetrating our lives big time, through everything from tech powering our smartphones to autonomous driving features on the cars. And now Teslas are trying to get mainstream with the self-driving aspect, and every single automobile company is trying to invest big time in AI in trying to stay future ready with their self-driving cars. And think of the smartphone and all the features which we have, right? Look at the number of AI components that are there. Now every camera that is there on the smartphone is marketed as an AI camera. The segmentation and the portrait modes, all these are powered with AI, right? And memory management to lots of things. And there are these artificial intelligence systems which started slowly empowering humans, and they started overpowering at a point. And this is the best example, right? Remember AlphaGo? This is an AI based program developed by DeepMind of Google, which defeated the world champion Go player. And this is considered to be one of the toughest board games, right? In chess, if there are 64 squares, this has many more, as we can see on the screen. And there are infinite possible moves. And the best part is the AlphaGo started playing with itself and try to understand, simulate for many moves, and it was able to um, win the world champion in 2016. And it was actually a moment of AI which was celebrated a lot, and later it started fading down. So this was the stage, right, few years ago, where AI started showing glimpses of empowering and also sometimes overpowering humans. Now, think of the new generation generative AI applications like the ChatGPT, the Google Bard, the GitHub Copilot, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E 3, and the likes. They are more popular than AlphaGo because they are more accessible now and versatile. Almost anyone can use them and communicate, and can even create beautiful content and converse like the way we are talking to a human, right? And a lot of AI technologies were always existing. It's not that November 2022, the last year, 30th of November, when ChatGPT was announced, right? So that was not the moment of AI. That was perhaps the iPhone moment of AI, where it started getting into mainstream. And November 30th, and fast forward now, it's almost a year, right? Yeah, we are almost a year, and plenty of people have started adopting to building those applications which were solved in a different way. Many problems which took some 4 months, 6 months to prove a value using traditional machine learning algorithms are now very well possible with this open source large language models. Or if you go for these large language models like that of ChatGPT, which are already trained on huge volumes of data, even without training, they are able to excel at those tasks where we built our own models, right? Now think of this traditional style where we are building these predictive machine learning models. You see these, we used to have this data, and we have labels for those data. Let's say, imagine you are trying to predict something, the sales, and you used to have the sales data as well as all the drivers of sales, and we try to build these predictive machine learning models which were trying to learn the relationship between the data and you give the data input as well as the output expected, which is the labels. Now, a mathematical relationship is what we try to establish with this machine learning models. And given a new sample, which is without an output variable, the model was able to predict. Now, think of these generative AI models. They have already seen a lot of data. They have seen enough data. And whenever you give an unstructured content, it could be a text, it could be an image, it could be a audio, it could be a video. That's where we are heading, right? And as input, these generative AI models are able to learn the patterns in the unstructured content. With its pre-trained knowledge, it is able to output something which looks like a fresh and new content. That is what is the very simple difference between a traditional style of AI model versus a generative AI model, right? Of course, this is an oversimplified stuff, but think about for a second, no? This Gen AI, does it even really have the creative ability? The generative AI models, like the large language models, we call it, right? Because they are trained on huge volumes of data, and these are nothing but neural network algorithms, which are one class of machine learning algorithms. And they have seen so much data that all the English that is written by mankind, that is there on the internet, every digital form of book, article, all of that content, if a model is able to learn and generalize and uh, have a abstract or a generalized perspective of every form of written English statement, if you ask it to write a poetry or ask it to create something, no, it will look as if it is creative and it is creating those fresh content, which is what is giving that ability of generative AI models, right? To study the existing artifacts and generate something that is remarkably fresh and creative. And especially when it comes to the fictional writing, or when it comes to all those amazing characters, when it has already know the playground, right? When it already knows the style of an author on which it is trained on, it is able to create something which is sometimes better than the original author, which is what is one of the biggest problems that is artists are facing, right? So we'll come to that. But when you think about these models, they really have that creative ability. Sometimes it is a boon and sometimes it really acts as a pain. Yeah. So now, with all its pre-trained content, whenever you assign a task, it is able to solve a problem which we used to build models for with our small data set in our enterprises. Now, as it has seen a lot of data, it is able to do some task like a sentiment analysis in no time. We are able to quickly build a system without even building a model, a working solution with these generative AI solutions. Now, if you think what really happens behind the screen, these large language models like ChatGPT are actually trying to predict the next best word. And if some of you have already heard this, now this is a little bit more deep dive into that, right? If you give a word, a sentence like the sky is, as an input to this large language model, all it tries to do is it tries to predict the next best word in all the plethora of English words. It tries to find which one has the highest probability of making the fourth word. So in this case, blue. So what you see here is logit scores, and when logit scores are fed to the softmax, we get probabilities, right? So technical parts aside, but you can imagine these as probabilities, and you can already see blue, clear, usually. The sky is blue, the sky is clear, the sky is usually. So these are the probable words. And all these the model is doing is picking one from this combination. And now, after having uttered 4 words, it would again go in an iterative loop and try to see the sky is blue. What is the next best word? That is what it is doing. And that's how it is able to create those long articles, essays, and everything that looks so cool, right, for us to comprehend. But you know what? We humans understand these words. But these large language models, generative AI models, they understand them as tokens, which is nothing but a fundamental unit of a large language model to understand sentences which we write. Now, so as you can see, each color here is a token. Sometimes you see things like the word revolutionized, where IZED, which doesn't make any sense to we humans, is a token. So you can imagine when you give a huge text, it tries to first break into tokens, and it understands that, okay, there is a token and there is a number associated with each of it when it got trained, and it is able to predict the next token based on those or tokenization which happened during the training process. So these are tokens. And why am I even talking about tokens? It's important because these large language models, right, like ChatGPT, they have something called token limit. And these models are available for us to build solutions for our enterprises, but we need to keep something in mind. They charge us by these tokens. There are many large language models. I'm going to show a few of them. ChatGPT is one popular one, right? Remember you copying a huge text into the chat box and it says that limit exceeded? That is because it is able to take up to 4096 tokens. And when you supply more than that, it is not able to, it counts these tokens first. It breaks the list of words into tokens, and it tries to understand that, okay, this is the input set. And when that limit crosses beyond what the model can take, that's where it gets choked, right? So this is a little bit fundamental on how these large language models understand the English we understand in its own style. Now, let's take a quick quiz. 100 tokens is equal to dash words. Any quick answers on the chat, please? Do you know? If I say there are 100 tokens, and I said, what is a token? It is the way the computers understand these English words, right? Or even multilingual words. Can you guess what is the number of tokens? 75. I mean, spot on answer. Sarana, it's not 100, right? So 75% of the token length is the number of words. So if I say there are 1,000 tokens, the models can take, it translates to 750 words approximately. Approximately. Each model has its own style. Yeah. Now, prices, right? Whenever you use a model like ChatGPT to build your own enterprise solutions, right? To build a real world application, you are charged for every 1,000 tokens, which is why I'm setting the stage. So you can think of token as a piece of word. It could be something like 4 characters, which make a token, but not necessary, right? So you can imagine 4,000 context window for a ChatGPT model, which means it can take up to 4,000 tokens. And you are charged 0.0015 for 1,000 tokens, which is 750 words, which you give as input. And let's say it gives back some 1,000 tokens. For that, you are charged 0.002. Now, there is also a big brother variant of the basic ChatGPT, which we all know, which is the 16,000 context length. You can imagine 16,000 tokens, right? Which we can feed in and take out. It's a longer model, right? So interesting. So that is where the charging is slightly different. You see, 0.003, and which is costlier than the basic version. Now, why are we even still discussing this? This is for you to understand there are even better models like that of ChatGPT, which is GPT-4, which can take up to 32,000 tokens. And look at the money. This is huge, right? And 0.012 for every 1,000 words it spits out. And if you want to just put this into perspective, the popular ChatGPT, the web version, if that can take 3,000 words, the GPT-4 can go up to 25,000 words. I'm calling it in words, right? You know, 75% of the token length is the word limit. So now this is what is the difference between many of the large language models, right? Now, let's think of the landscape for a second. The speed, the real speed at which this technology, generative AI technology, is developing is really mind-blowing, right? ChatGPT, which was introduced in November 22. Now, 4 months later, even before we people could digest what that amazing tool is doing, OpenAI already introduced its GPT-4 within 4 months, right? And that was this spot. And before that, if you see, there were many predecessors like GPT-3, GPT-J, GPT Neo, and Microsoft has its versions. And we also had Google coming up with their Palm models, and they had many variants. And you see the symbol Meta. Meta had their OPT, and they introduced Llama. Now, within few months, right, in May, we had this model from Anthropic, which is called Claude, and that could take up to 100,000 tokens. 100,000 tokens is almost 5.5 hours, which we humans would take to read the textbook with 75,000 words. That is the capability which some of these models have, right? So it's like taking a huge textbook and getting a quick summary of it in no time. which would take hours and hours for we humans, right? So that is what I'm just trying to put this into perspective. And it's a extremely competitive environment where a lot of models from Google, which is Palm 2, which is what is powering your Bard. If you, I'm sure many of you have used Bard, which is Google's answer to ChatGPT, right? Now it was not great earlier, but now it has caught up a lot. So now this is a quick picture till March, but a lot of things even happened post March, right? In June, we had Llama, which is from Meta. They open sourced these large language models and they took the industry by storm. Now, Microsoft is investing big time in these OpenAI technologies, and that's when OpenAI is becoming the partner, official partner with Microsoft, and Microsoft kind of holds a lot of stakes of OpenAI, right? That's how they are able to go big when pushing these large language models like ChatGPT, GPT-4 to enterprises with their Azure suite already. So via Azure Cloud, they are pushing these models, and Google is using their Google Cloud to sell these models like Palm 2. And Meta has made it open source, which a lot of community developers can use it to develop these applications, right? So you need to just take a step back and think, hey, if I need to build a generative AI solution in my organization, what are the different options? You can build your own large language model like that of Bloomberg GPT. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time, and you need to really spend millions of dollars, and you need to have huge compute to build that. With your own enterprise data, you build your own large language model like what OpenAI did with ChatGPT. You can also use the powerful open closed source models like that of ChatGPT or Claude, which I mentioned, via the APIs. That's where I was setting the stage of 1,000 tokens and what kind of charging goes in there. This is one of the easiest routes, and these are competitively priced. And if you want to quickly win in this world of GenAI, using this closed source large language models is the best way, because the hard, heavy infrastructure is maintained by the service providers, the foundation model service providers. For instance, you use an Azure OpenAI account to call this OpenAI model like that of GPT-4, and you don't need to worry about how do I keep this huge GPT-4 model up and running in my infrastructure. You just pay for that transaction, input, output, and you pay per use, right? Now, if you want to take an open source large language model like that of Llama, you can take that, download that model, which is officially available. You can host it on your premise and use it like a chat GPT. Here, you need to keep the model running up and running all the time. You need to manage the infra. What is the next option? You can fine tune your open source large language model like that of Llama or Falcon and use your enterprise data, which is one of the sophisticated ways. Here you are trying to leverage the best pre-trained large language model like that of Llama or Falcon, and you're putting your domain and enterprise data on top of that with your fine-tuning techniques. Now, I don't have time to get into each of these beyond this point, but I'm sure you have a ballpark now on 4 different options. Now, I'm pretty sure in this group, right, 50 plus, all of you must have seen many of these large language models, but ChatGPT, if I'm pretty sure everyone knows, Bing Chat is also another cool version where you can use these models like GPT-4, DALL-E 3 for free, and all you need to do is just visit the website. I'm going to show the URL details now. We also have Claude 2, which is that 100,000 variant model, and that is available in India now. It's been just a couple of weeks since it is available in India for free. That's one of the coolest, right? And Bard, of course, from Google. Now, all ChatGPT, I don't need to introduce. If you visit bing.com/new, you will get the power of Bing Chat plus the GPT-4 for free. And this is one of the best versions, right? To get the internet search power plus the GPT-4. And if you want to use Claude, which is again free, right? You can upload something like a 100-page PDF and ask questions on it. I tried solving a lot of problems with it. It's so cool, and you can even do a data analysis by uploading an Excel. This is completely free, right? You should try this. Large context, unbelievable. Bard, Google, again a tough competitor powered by Palm 2 model as its brain, and it has access to the internet like the Bing chat, and it is getting better day by day, right? It can handle text, images as well now. It's so cool. And it can also now talk to your Google suite of products, right? Like your Gmail, like your Drive. And if you ask some question about, hey, can you write a summary about the recent Google Doc of mine? And if you give the name of it, it can go and talk to Google Drive, which no other application can do, right? That's where Google is trying to get super amazing at this. Now, if you haven't started any of this, just don't wait and get started immediately, right? So this is stage setting. Now, ChatGPT very recently, meaning on September 25th, they came up with this amazing thing where it can now see, it can talk, and it can do wonders, right? So this is a use case which they actually showcased, where we were able to see a person who was just clicking a picture of his bicycle, and he was just trying to ask a question about how to adjust the height of his seat. And what he did, the guy was saying, right? So he was able to let me bring up that quick video. Let's see this. I hope you are able to see my screen, and I hope you are able to see the video as well.
Yes, Arun.
Great. Now he asks a question by uploading another picture, asking if that is the lever. Says no, that's not the lever. Then he supplies a picture of his toolbox and the manual of the bicycle, along with the toolbox the guy holds, and asks if he has the right tool. The interesting part is it is able to identify a specific Allen key, 4mm Allen key, which will fix his problem. And he used following the instructions which ChatGPT gave, and he says it works. So this is for real. And you can, if you have that application, and if you are a Prime GPT Plus user, right, ChatGPT Plus user, this is going to be available even for you, right? You can try clicking a picture of which I tried doing. I tried clicking a picture of a speaker which was not working, and it gave those amazing answers, right? So now this opens up a plethora of use cases, guys. Why did we even see this video? Now it's getting so interactive, as if another human being is sitting out there who's an expert in knowing all these tools, the manual, the bicycle, right? That's where the power of this multimodal nature. And imagine if this tool is even speaking like a human. Think of the disruption that can happen to industries, right? The customer service and so many things which we are doing, and whatever was a bottleneck in the current systems, imagine how that is going to get solved. Now look at some of the popular GenAI use cases, right? So we all know that content summarization ChatGPT was able to beautifully do, and research, creative writing, question answering on your specific PDFs, documents. Of course, it can write great codes. It has trained on all the Stack Overflow to GitHub repositories. And when it comes to image, right, generating images, which DALL-E 3 can beautifully do. I'm going to show a quick glimpse of what the latest DALL-E 3, which is the image generation model from OpenAI, is capable of doing, right? And that is available for free to all of us. It's one of the best, right, by far. And video creation, I'm going to cover that as well. When it comes to doing this language tasks, transcription, translation, and imagine you have a video in your regional language. Let's say let's say Tamil or Telugu or Hindi, and if you want to create a subtitle in English, you have your own short film and you want to create it. You can use a couple of these free large language models, multimodal large language models. One can understand the subtitle, one can understand the video, and one can do a beautiful translation, stitch and you have a great answer, right? You can create multiple languages and you can start having these subtitles. Then traditional problems like entity recognition, name entity recognition, sentiment analysis, classification, clustering, segmentation, topic modeling, semantic search, all these are completely disrupted. Now, I meet my erstwhile businesses like whom I delivered for like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I tell them, you know what, we solved some problem together 4 years ago. Now let's do a quick 20-minute session. I'm going to take the same data and let's do it in 15 minutes. And that's what we do, right? That's how we reopen new accounts and kind of amaze them with what is the new potential, and we create new leads, right? So this is one of the coolest ways in which I'm trying to use these large language models to create that wow factor in clients for building a strong pipeline. Now, it's we all know that image, music, it's not limited to text. It's getting multimodal, and the number of use cases which we can solve are also becoming humongous. Now let's take a real serious thinking about what kind of economic potential GenAI really has, right? And whatever I'm going to quote in the next few slides, these are for real. It's coming in from strong research, and I try to cover a lot of content which McKinsey did and many other research organizations did in the last 3 to 4 months. And the numbers are unbelievable, guys. GenAI's impact on productivity could add trillions of dollars in value to the global economy. And if you look at the number, it is somewhere between 2.6 trillion to 4.4 trillion dollars annually. And the fun fact here is the UK's GDP 2021 was just 3.1 trillion. And we are looking at the productivity impact of generative AI on the global economy, right? And this would increase the impact of all AI systems by 15 to 40%, right? And this is definitely disruptive because that's why we call it as the real iPhone moment, right? Where a lot of these large language models are reimagining the way many industries solve the problems. Shall we take a closer look at some of the top industries? Take a look at this. GenAI will have significant impact across all industry sectors, in which if you zoom in and see banking, high tech, life sciences are among those industries that could see the biggest impact as a percentage of the revenue from GenAI. Across the banking industry, for example, technology could deliver value equal to 200 billion to 340 billion annually if the use cases were fully implemented. And if you look at retail and consumer packaged goods, right, as you can see, this is potentially having an impact of 400 billion to 660 billion a year. And very interestingly, if you see these industries and the different business areas, right? For example, if you take banking or if you take education or high tech, there are these common functions, right? For instance, marketing, sales, customer operations, product R&D, software engineering, legal, corporate, talent acquisition. These are all common supporting functions, right? So if you look at about 75% of the value that GenAI use cases could deliver are falling in just 4 areas: customer operations, M&S, marketing, sales, software engineering, and R&D. This is so cool, right? Across 16 business functions. And when we globally looked at all these industries and cherry picked some 63 use cases and thoroughly examining the tech and the specific business challenge in which each of those problems were giving these measurable outcomes, right? Examples could include something like GenAI's ability to support interactions with customers, generating creative content for marketing and sales, and draft computer code based on natural language prompts. You ask for something, it is able to understand that, write the required code in Python or in SQL, are some of the coolest applications, right? And these 4 areas across these top few business functions in these industries, right, is adding to a lot of value. Now, AI is definitely not a threat to any of these industries, right? Especially if you take something like a banking industry, which is so traditional in its roots. GenAI is definitely going to act as a catalyst, and AI, especially GenAI, and the idea of AI taking over mankind and people losing jobs, Of course, yes, there are going to be impacts on those mundane tasks. If you have somebody who's writing, making an entry in Excel through day in and out, we can use that person for something else, right? So that's what is the answer. And something that took long time to solve can now be solved quickly, right? Now, if you take banking as an idea, which is because it's evergreen, right? Think of that one evergreen industry. Whatever happens to the stock market, there is this banking which is there as a supporting industry. And this has a good 3 to 5% lift, productivity lift, which is a whopping 200 to $340 billion, right? And that's the money GenAI could save, or there could be a top line impact as well. Now, if you take zoom in into the banking industry, where we said there could be 3 to 5%, right? Banking, a knowledge and tech enabled industry, has already benefited a lot from previously existing artificial intelligence applications in areas such as marketing, customer operations. But GenAI could deliver additional benefits, especially because text modalities are prevalent in areas such as regulations and programming languages, and the industry is customer facing, right? With many B2C and small business customers as well. Now, when you look at sustained digitization efforts across, along with legal IT systems, banks have been investing in technology for decades, right? Accumulating a significant amount of technical debt, along with the siloed and complex IT architecture they have. And if you think of their customer cares, right? Large customer facing workforces banks have. Banks rely on large number of service representatives to acquire customers in call centers, those agents who are already educated on specific products, wealth management, financial advisors. Now, if you look at the regulatory side, a very stringent regulatory environment persists, right? If they do a mistake, it's gonna cost huge amount on the penalties with the regulatory bodies, right? So every country has their regulatory bodies. Here we have RBI, we have Federal Bank, we have the Central Bank of Kuwait of the world, right? And as a heavily regulated industry, banking has a substantial number of risk, compliance, and legal needs. And also, GenAI, if you look at this industry, it's a pretty much a white collar industry, right? So GenAI's impact could span the organization, assisting all employees in writing emails to creating business presentations and those tasks. So these top 4 use cases, the legacy code conversions, customer interactive IVRs, and I'm going to zoom in on to this customer operations use case, right? So I envisioned a potential bank having a chatbot, and I thought how GenAI intervention can help, right? And again, in marketing and sales, we talked about what kind of push marketing, what kind of cross-selling and upselling and A/B testing opportunities GenAI can bring in. And of course, with the regulatory framework, right? So there are plenty of documentation and all that needed, and which are required to be sometimes in a monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, and yearly basis. Now, banking is one evergreen industry, and if you just try to look at this interesting analysis coming in right from Insider, so the largest impact is expected to be seen in the areas related to retail banking, SMB, of course, commercial banking, and investment banking. In the next 3 years, these 4 areas relate to fraud support, which is, as you can see, there is a high interest from the provider side and also from the consumer side. And of course, personalizing offers, having virtual assistants, wealth planning. These are areas where there could be quick impacts. Now, when you take the next 2 industries, right, retail, consumer banking, and pharma, consumers are increasingly seeking customizations in everything from clothing, cosmetics to curated shopping experience. Now, think of those recommendations which we get, and think of those fashion industries, right, which can beautifully use these generative AI to personalize what you need. You might need a jacket, and you might need something. You might create your own logo. You might want your own combination of colors, or kind of slightly change the take 2 jackets and kind of create one more design out of the 2, right? So you can get your own design, and the manufacturer himself can create something exclusive for you, right? For the personalized outreach. And you know what is going to rule the world is the personalization. Now, what is Netflix doing, right? if you take a second to think about Netflix, how many of you have seen this Bandersnatch series, right? Where there are multiple interactions, right, with the user, and there is a play, and you are asked, right, what is the direction in which you want the story to go next, and you choose path A versus path B. Let's say there is an antagonist which is dying in that scene, and if you want that person to get saved, you can choose that path, and people can have their own happy endings, or they can have their exclusive climaxes, right? Some people like sad endings, some people are like, okay, I want some um, enigmatic climax. So depending on people's taste, the content can be created with AI. The play can have multiple endings. And this is the era, right? And customization, personalization is the future. And that's where GenAI can really bring in a lot of impact. And GenAI can also aggregate market data to test concepts, ideas, and models. It can do self-research, and it can we can speed up things, right, which used to take like months to even half year for to be achieved. And in the interest of time, right? Of course, GenAI can help in R&D. We talked about how it can help in content creation, and of course, in drug discovery and research. Right, this is one area where there is significant amount of time spent by people. If GenAI can accelerate that, right, in looking at the right proteins or the combination of molecules which can help in curing a specific condition, that is what is going to save something that takes a company like that of Novartis or Roche or even Pfizer for 10 years. What if that becomes half the time? Let's not think of something which takes 1 year, right, versus 10 years. Even if it is half the time, huge money is saved, right? Think of the labor opportunity cost for 5 years. Now, that is the impact across these top 5 industries. Now, let's take a second to think about this customer service, which is one of the evergreen functions, which is across all the top industries we discussed. Now, Sam Altman also spoke about this is one field which will quickly get replaced because of GenAI, right? And it has the potential to revolutionize entire customer operations, where we can have people who can interact with AI systems. And if you look at GenAI powered customer operations, these 4 specific areas, right? Customer self-service, resolution during initial contact, right? When the person contacts, you immediately give a resolution because of all the past data, and reduce response time. How many times has these customer care representatives put our call on hold, talking to the managers, understanding or how to even answer a simple question, right? You get irritated, and that's the bottleneck, right? And I have had so many bad instances where you have a newbie on the call, and you are set, right, to spend the next 45 minutes explaining your problem and finally ending up not having any resolution. And of course, increase sales. And this is a whopping $404 billion potential impact, right, across 63 use cases. And this is 38% global functional spending in this space of customer operations. And these estimates are unbelievable, right? If there can be a lift like this, then this is the first industry we should start leveraging GenAI with. Now, I think this is a quick audio which I'm gonna play, and I think I'm gonna put this on.
Hey, James.
Yeah, who's this?
Allow me to
Hey, James.
play this.
It's Alexander from Tesla Motors. How's your day going so far?
It's going pretty good, my man. How about yourself? You said from Tesla, right? It's the car company?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling from Tesla Motors, the car company. Did you have any trouble or questions while customizing your car on our website?
No, we're just kind of shopping around and, just taking a look.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Sometimes we're just exploring our options before making a decision, and I totally respect that. Can I ask you why you were looking into a Tesla in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've had my car for way too long now, and so I'm kind of taking a look at options.
I think by now we clearly understand who's the human here and who's the AI here, right? Now, Air is this customer care. They released this video and it took the internet by storm, right? You see a person looking at Tesla website and is searching for cars. Immediately he gets a call in an order, and AI is the one which is speaking on the other side. And I intentionally put this video at 1.5 because the model kind of takes some time to process and give the results. It's in the initial stages. But you know what? How this conversation goes further? It tries to understand the intention of why the person is searching for Tesla, and it finally ends up even booking a test drive, right, for the guy. And I'm gonna quickly go to
see if this is the car that makes sense for you. Is that something you would be down for?
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we have a 7 p.m. or an 11 a.m. available in Omaha time. Which time works best for you?
Let's do the 7 o'clock.
Great. I'll lock in that time for you. You're all set for a test drive at 7 p.m. Anything else I can help you with, James?
Nope, that's it. I really appreciate you giving me the call.
Well, it was my pleasure speaking with you, James.
Now you can see it's actually an AI which is exactly speaking like how a human would do, right? And these are the initial days. Imagine what if there is the Turing test fails there, right? Where you are not able to identify whether it's a human or an AI. So that is a real example of how a customer care field, right, can completely get revolutionized. And see, people are tired, people have limited knowledge, and there are shifts, there are working hours, and there are too many dependencies with the ticketing systems and all that. Imagine this AI knowing everything about your preferences, everything about the products, just like how the makers would explain, right? And it explains in the way you would like to understand. That's what we are talking about, right? Now, let me also take the same customer care area, and I'm going to quickly give you an idea about sentiment analysis, which we all know. Sentiment analysis is all about knowing what people feel about. It's all about opinions, and we are trying to say whether the product is being liked, disliked, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. Now, if you take the model like that of GPT-3, which was released in 2020, when we all were busy fighting the pandemic, this model silently came in and it created an impact, right? If you give these 4 pieces of text, which is about movies, it was able to say whether it is a positive sentiment or a negative sentiment with it a 0 shot. You never trained a model. You just said the movie is bloody good, which is interesting. It's found it is positive. And when you look at the third statement, when you say the movie is so nice, I walked out of the hall in 2 minutes, it is a sarcasm, right? When it is so nice, why did you walk out? So it's identified that it's a negative sentiment. But when you look at the last one, the movie is a blockbuster. By the way, who's the actor? We're not sure whether it is a sarcasm or it is a positive or a negative. It's technically a neutral statement, right? But it said it is positive. Now, when you put that same thing on a better model like that of ChatGPT, look at what happens to the second one, right? The movie is so nice that I slept in the first 5 minutes, which is actually a negative sentiment, which the previous model did not catch. It's called it a positive, which was so perfect with ChatGPT. You know what? If you put the same on the best beast, which is available today, GPT-4, the costliest, at the same time, the powerful model, a sentiment analysis, which was considered, I remember my first AI project where I was trying to crawl data from Twitter and I was trying to find the sentiment of tweets about Dhoni, right? And versus Sachin, right? I was doing that. So it was so funny. We used bag of words and all that. No, but back then that was the best model, right? I even won that presentation. But again, now nobody is going to build another sentiment analysis model. You see this answer from GPT-4, right? Look at the reasoning. Look at the fourth one. The text states that the movie is a blockbuster, which could suggest a positive sentiment, but then asks who's the actor. Is distracting from any clear positive or negative sentiments, which is why I say it is neutral. This is mind-blowing, right? Now I'm brushing you up on sentiment analysis. Why? Because I'm going to show you a real use case, which I myself fictitiously thought through and created. I'm going to show a quick run through of how that solution can be of help, right? So we are going to gain sentiment from a customer interaction of a person visiting the website. Yeah. And you remember when you go to the website, bloop, that chatbot pops up and asks, hi, how are you? How can I help? Most of them, it's a stupid bot, right? When you ask something, it says something else. But imagine an AI-powered, a GenAI-powered chat bot out there and really answering your questions. And it understands how long it should manage the customer and when it should kind of redirect it to the real human, right? No, that is the case, right? So we always know that humans definitely have special touches. We understand the problem, connecting the dots and all that powers we have, but machines can still help in the process and in getting us productive. This GenAI is not going to replace those call center experts, but how I envision this is a customer visits the website, which we all can imagine, any website, right? You can imagine bank, anything, clothing industry, Amazon, whatever, interacts with the chatbot there. There's a real-time sentiment analysis happening using the generative AI models for every dialogue. Now, AI redirects the call to the call center expert only when there is a negative sentiment. If somebody comes to the call center chatbot and says that, hey, I like your website, it's so cool. Why do you have to redirect that to a guy who's really there to solve a problem, right? And waste his time. Okay, thank you so much is all he has to say, right? So we are going to take a human intervention only when there is a real problem, a negative sentiment. Now, think of this call center staff who receives this AI-generated interaction summary and avoids these stupid questions like, hey, can you confirm your account number? Can you tell me your problem? And they irritate by asking the same question again and again, right? I'm sure you should be able to relate to this. And we end up repeating the same thing. When they connect the call, we bare minimum expect them to already have the context, right? This guy starts from the very beginning, right? The manager guy who's supposed to help and ends up wasting our time. Now, think about this AI, which is creating a summary and clearly tells, hey, dude, real dude, look at this is the problem he has, and you need to help him then and there. The staff assists the customer promptly with AI's due diligence, and the customer ends up returning home happily with his issue solved. This is how I envision a system, right? Now you think of AI really helping in interaction, AI kind of connecting the problem that the real human customer has with the real human, and then it acts as his real buddy, right? Now, let us see a real run through, right, of this scenario. I know in the interest of time, I'm going to make this fast. There's a customer who's just walking in and saying that I'm doing a fund transfer and it's repeatedly failing. A real-time sentiment analysis happens and says it's negative. An AI responds saying that, hey, can you tell the error message? And the person says, this is the error message, failed due to technical issues. It's really frustrating. Again, the word frustrating, continuously there is a negative sentiment detected. AI says that, okay, I can see the frustration in you, and I'm going to bring this customer raised with the customer care guy, and the customer says that it is ridiculous, and he continues that it's really urgent and he's not having time for this issue to get resolved. Again, a third negative sentiment. Immediately this continuous frustration is understood, and it clearly redirects this to the customer care staff, and it creates a summary saying the customer is experiencing multiple failed transaction, and this is the error, this is the account number, and just go and help him directly. Now the dude joins, the customer care real staff joins there, right? Says hello, hi, and all that, and without asking stupid questions, immediately says, I apologize, and I understand this is your account number and this is the error message you are facing. May I ask if you tried alternatives? He asks a question. Customer says, no, I never tried the mobile bank app. He says, yes, should I give a try? And there is a real-time sentiment here happening in this dialogue where the sentiment is becoming neutral. It's from negative to neutral. Then the staff says, yes, it would be helpful if you try the mobile application, log in. The customer just tries the mobile application and says that, yes, the alternate suggestion immediately works. The sentiment turns out to be positive, and the staff says that, great, and your failure is now resolved. And that's how a negative sentiment kind of becomes a positive sentiment in one single conversation, right? And you can think of this happening in real time where you're trying to punch those 10,000 numbers before you really get to talk to a person, right, in the current system. This is for real, guys. This is possible. And here we see a real-time scenario of a sentiment analysis plus an AI-assisted human feedback. And let's think of this solution, right? AI is generating a summary of the customer interaction. And it is also was able to shift the sentiment from negative to neutral in no time. And the customer care agent, the real guy, really helped when there is a need. He didn't have to talk to somebody who just doesn't have a real problem, right? Or the AI itself is able to answer that. The definite benefits is we are able to do something real time, and we are able to avoid the manual intervention. Customer satisfaction is definitely going to be super high because that is what measures the strength of call centers, right? And people focus only on real issues. They don't waste time, and they are able to not waste time on the common recurring problems, right? Because the AI can learn from the solutions and it can provide that solution. Next time when somebody comes and says that transaction fails, it's going to say that, okay, I'm going to give these mobile app as a recommendation, right? It will automatically do. So this is how we see these a real example, right, where it can help. Now, in the interest of time, I want to quickly show how the field of education, right, is really getting revolutionized. Now, this particular sector has a CAGR of 40.5, and this is unbelievable, right? EdTech industry powered by GenAI. Now, EdTech has a great share, adaptive learning, student segmentation. These are all certain areas, right, where GenAI can really help. And you know what? One of the well-known edtech firms Khan Academy has already started exploring this potential of GPT-4, right? And they built something called Khanmingo, which is an AI-powered assistant that functions as both a virtual tutor for students as well as an assistant for teachers. Now, really, they are running this pilot program and they're trying to explore if there is a student who's just asking for an answer, right? The tool itself will try to give some hints. And so if you look at this, it gives hints like, okay, they need to have the same denominator if you need to solve a math problem like this. And it kind of guides the student through this adaptive learning, right? Instead of giving the answer directly. So this is, imagine if you need to build a specific tutor who has to do this. So this is where they are trying to do an early pilot, and they are really watchful of the errors, especially in the math reasoning questions, right? Because these are areas where these large language models can always catch up. And as we speak, there is a new technology, new power prompt engineering technique to enhance the way these large language models reason out. Of course, coding is one thing which these large language models can do wonders, right? Now, you all must have heard about this product called GitHub Copilot, where you just write one line of English comment and it is able to code along with you like a peer, and it can generate most of the code, right? And you just say, I need a class which needs to do this, and you need a function which has to do this. It is able to create those beautiful codes, and even the best developers are able to save a lot of time because they know how to solve a big problem. They don't want to sit and waste time in writing the same old sort or a search or any algo, right, which can quickly be written by these AI in no time. So this is one product which you might have to really look up, and there are many open source large language models like StarCoder, which can really help you to create these codes. Now, if you look at the field of audio, this is going to get really disrupted as well, because Meta has come up with their voice box model where it can
Olá a
potentially
todos.
do multiple operations.
This is VoiceBox, a new AI foundation model for speech that does some pretty awesome things. If you give it text, it can read it in a bunch of different styles.
Penelope Porcupine and Sammy Sloth danced gracefully in the treetops.
Penelope Porcupine and
The
Sammy
same
Sloth
voice in
danced
somebody else's
gracefully in
style.
the treetops.
And you can use it to fix background noise too, kind of like an eraser, but for audio. Sammy and Penelope's heartwarming friendship inspires joy.
Now you see the dog barking.
Sammy and Penelope's heartwarming friendship inspires joy.
Completely removed, right?
We think this is probably the most versatile speech generative model out there. This is still a research project, but I think that we're going to be able to.
So this is VoiceBox, and also we have this OpenAI Whisper model, which can take in, that's from OpenAI. It's available as an open source model. You can just send an input voice and it can beautifully translate into any language. It can do that amazing. So now, gone are those days where these multimodal capabilities are far away from the human usage, right? So now,
Olá,
in the interest of time, I'm going to just quickly show you this last idea. Look at this one, right? This is very new, brand new. If you look at a soccer field like this and think of that image editing industry, right, where you can do a generative fill, and think of those multimedia content creators. You select the area and you simply say that I need a snow mountain here and I need fall leaves here. You literally are having a single image where you are interacting with simple prompts, simple text prompts, and you see that simple picture where this girl was standing on a soccer field, and now you see a real multimedia content created. This is generative fill, and it is really a game changer in the image editing industry, right? So this is for real, guys. These are all some, in fact, Adobe Photoshop has introduced this cool feature, and this blew my mind, right? And this was close to my heart. I loved this idea from Iceland. And Iceland is working with OpenAI to train their Icelandic text, which is actually a language which is dying due to digitization. Nobody is even using their language. They themselves, it's a small cohort of people who are speaking this language, and it is dying because of people not using it. So Iceland is using GPT-4 to preserve its language, which is at the risk due to digitization, the government has a language planning department that coins Icelandic terms for new ideas and has partnered with OpenAI to use GPT-4 to boost its ability to service Iceland and promote the preservation of other low resource languages, right? So this is important because Icelandic is a low resource language, and you can think of many Indian languages which are already dying because of the domination of some prominent languages, right? I don't want to mention any here, but it's happening. We all know it, right? So how do you preserve your heritage, right? So here, GPT-4 as a good Icelandic language, you can see this prompt completion pairs, right? And a prompt written in the Icelandic language and the corresponding translation in English. And here they hired a battalion of people who understand the language and as well as English, and they use this technique of the team is using a process called RLHF, which is reinforcement learning from human feedback, to train GPT-4 on proper Icelandic grammar and cultural knowledge. So this RLHF is more efficient than the previous methods, and it could be used to train the GPT-4 on many more low resource languages, right? The team hopes to train GPT-4 well enough to power complex creative applications in Icelandic, and this would allow Icelandic companies to deploy GPT-4 in their local language to build applications. And think what will happen to that community, right? They would speak their native language, they would use a powerful model like GPT-4 from OpenAI, and they can do stuff, right? So this is something which blew my mind and I loved it. So guys, it is just the beginning, and I pretty much understand that the excitement over this technology is palpable, and early pilots are really compelling. I myself have built some of these enterprise scale GenAI applications for banks, for legal teams. It's quite interesting, right? And it's sensitive enterprise data, guys. There are more challenges, right? So a full realization of this technology's benefits will take some time, and leaders in business and society still have considerable challenges to address. Yeah, so these could be including like the managing the risks that are already associated with these technologies, and how do you even ensure whatever it is saying is always right? It never says no, it always says something. How do you control it to say that I don't know, right? And how do you ensure that whatever is saying is factually correct? So these are some. And what about the ethical challenges, guys? I think we can have our next session on ethical, right? I'm going to talk about something which is unbelievably mind-blowing. Whatever we think is great has a lot of ethical bias in it. I think it needs another 1 hour to deep dive into that, right? So with that note, I would like to just end today's talk, and we can definitely, I would like to take your feedback. Kindly scan this, and let me also bring up that. Let's quickly do some of the feedback, right? Can you kindly pull up your mobile phones and let's do a quick round of feedback, guys? Did you find the use cases which I shared relevant? Was it making sense? Were you able to connect the dots? A quick interactive. If a lot of you are not using this, kindly scan this. Good to know people are already finding it useful, but I would like to also know a little bit more categorical feedback, right? So let's rate this session. How do you rate this session on real world applications of GenAI? I know it's a 1 hour power packed session, and I really wanted to give you guys some fundamentals. What is large language models? How do you want to use it? What are they all about? And at the same time, I also wanted you to just connect the dots and think through some of those economic impact, because there's no point in talking about use cases without knowing what kind of potential it can add. And these are numbers, right? Huge numbers in billions of dollars, which are for real. And we know now the big industries and the big functions, right? That's the top 4 functions: customer support, M&S, and R&D and software engineering, which will have a great impact. And we cherry picked some of those areas, and we saw some use cases, and of course multimodal as well. Take a second. I would like to know a little bit more views. Okay, good to know it's working with a lot of you guys.
I love the polls that are shown on the screen, Arun. They are really interactive.
Yeah. Now this is gonna be super cool interactive. Let's try this one, guys. Right? Let's quickly, whatever that quickly comes to your mind, right? Any on the use cases you saw, any key takeaways, any aha moments you had, whatever you liked, disliked, anything that is right. Just take a second to write a line or two, and we can see it coming live together, and we can see what all of us feel. And scan this code, and you're gonna just type a line or two, and you can also vote for somebody else's comment as well. I'm still waiting for your responses. Prospects of learning AI is amazing. Okay, I'm doing auto type typo correction. Yes, definitely. So this is the different options available for learning is amazing. So Claude 2 is something which you guys should be using. If you are not, of course, we are all using ChatGPT. Also try to pull out your Bard from Google, right? Click a picture of some object around you, right? Upload it and ask it to write a creative content. I tried doing this with my bike, and it started writing a cool, and I had my custom made seats and all that, right? It started writing a creative content, and I was so mind blown, right, with that. And okay, good to know. It was an interesting session to see GenAI applications in industries. Yes, key takeaways are practical use of GenAI and custom service. Yes, I really also was amazed by how it can disrupt. And you saw the lift, right? 40% lift in that industry, which is so cool. And if customer service is strengthened in an organization, right? Think of any brand you like, and your mind will always be associated inherently with the customer service that company offers. That's why we all love Amazon, because the moment you have a problem, there is a support. And I can name a lot of these new age fintech companies, right, who have a very strong customer support, and that's what builds trust, right? And we sometimes we know it's a P2P lending platform, which is risky, but if the customer service is there, okay, there is somebody out there to always answer. So this is one industry which can really help us, right? And thanks for that comment. Awesome session. Live working with these tools will help more. Yes. Had it been a workshop, we can do more, but I wanted to just tease your brains with this. More powerful stuff near easy things. Examples are so good. Thank you. Great. I was surprised that how things are changing so fast. Feels like I should start entrepreneur. Yes. I think being an entrepreneur, this is the best time to become one, right? And also understand it's a very fast-paced world, right, which is changing a lot. So any more questions which you have, Mahima? I'm happy to take. I'm kind of done, and guys, keep flowing in your ideas.
Sure, Ram. Thank you so much for the session. I could see the session was really great. We could see the feedback live on the screen. Thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and talking to our audience today. And yes, the session was really interactive and it was great to see all those examples. Thank you so much once again. Guys, as we're moving forward, do we have any questions that you would want Arun to answer for you? You have a Q&A section open where you can put down your questions and Arun will be more than happy to answer your questions.
Please take a session on developing AI apps using LLM. Oh yeah, definitely. So Mallikarjuna Raju wants to have a live session on developing AI apps. Definitely we can do. In fact, Karan, Mahima, and I already spoke about it. So we can think through. If you guys really need one, we can do a more hands-on workshop in the future. But now we need to really understand what we want to solve. Now, solving is become easy nowadays, guys. Trust me when I say this. Everybody is a coder. Everybody is a developer. Nobody has to say that I know I never coded, because these tools can do. The subtle line of difference between a coder and non-coder is becoming more and more feeble. If you are a great visionary, if you have that amazing business solving capabilities, right? A great coder might not be a domain expert. But if you have a domain expert, if you lack coding, now these tools with your business acumen, you'll be able to connect the dots, right? That's where I really like the way this GenAI can accelerate things, right, in the industry. So sure, we can do more. how GenAI can help in politics or political predictions. You know what? These models, right? They politely refuse to answer anything related to political predictions because there is a lot of bias that creeps in, right? You know what happened with Meta? You know, the interrogation that Zuckerberg and Sundar Pichai, these great gentlemen, billionaires, have to go through against with the Congress, right? And with some fundamental question like, okay, will you be able to say where I was last night with this phone? The answer is yes, location is being tracked. How can you do this without my permission? Was the question from one of the congressmen, right? So, which was it? And what happened with Cambridge Analytica incident, right? With where Facebook was actually trying to inject some of those thoughts in the minds of people by showing few content which were kind of creating a political bias in the election results, right? So these models are trying to be super careful on that. And Krishna, if you need to build one, you can make one, right? But by default, they won't answer any political questions. Anything more? Okay. Model explainability and trustworthiness, can you explain? Okay, fantastic. So model explainability, right? Explaining how a model really predicted what it is doing. That is what builds credibility in the predictions made by the model, right? If you look at the traditional machine learning algorithms, right, like that of a regression model or a classification model, or even a model which predicted a sale number or a forecasted for tomorrow's weather, if it can explain itself saying that, hey, because of so and so input drivers, I predicted something like this, that is what we call as explainable AI. And this is a most important responsible AI principle. Now, with models like large language models like ChatGPT, that is what is becoming a challenge. It cannot explain why it said something like that. Even the makers themselves cannot, because that is the way it is. So this is where we can use the power of these large language models, generative AI applications, and we can build frameworks like RAG systems, retrieval augmented generation systems, which is one of the popular ways to make these models explain why it is predicting something using your domain enterprise data and the power of an API call like that of a GPT-4 or a ChatGPT. So you use a pre-trained large language model, the power of its reasoning and all that. You give your own custom enterprise data. You kind of connect these two. Then you ask a question on this, right? And it will be able to cite the sources, and you can make it do that. So this is how Vivekananda, your question on model explainability trustworthiness is key. And if you think of banking industry, they would sometimes prefer a simple linear regression model, right? Which is purely understandable, explainable, versus a deep learning model, which is a black box. So that's where in a highly regulated industry, which always wants a trust from a machine which is predicting something, you need to have a guardrail around this. And now GenAI is actually still having that big problem of explainability, which we can solve using alternate frameworks like retrieval augmented generation. Instead of building your own LLM, we can build RAG system. So I think more about this in another avenue, but I hope you got your broad perspective, Vivek. What next? Best way to start as a third-year student. You know what, anonymous dude or dude, this is the best era to be a student. I really envy you, right? Because I wish somebody really gave me a tool which could explain what is something like a normal distribution or a Poisson distribution or a conditional probability to a 10-year-old. Now you can ask that to the ChatGPT, and I'm pretty sure it can give better explanations than many best teachers. That's for a fact. And I myself, who has teaching as a hobby for the last decade, right, I find more interesting if I need to quote some great examples, right, to somebody who's non-technical. I try to ask it and prompt and get it. So now as a third-year student, you don't need to really depend on all the time on the classes or the recorded sessions. You can get the gist of it. You can get the crux of the story. You can get an application angle. You can always think on how I'm going to apply this in tomorrow's world, and you can learn it. I think you should use these free tools, which I said: Claude.ai, bard.google.com, chat.openai.com, and of course, you can go to this Bing and Bing New and Chat, and you can see that, right? So that's the way I would recommend students to start using. It's all for free. And there are free courses and there are many, of course, materials, articles, mediums available, right, for you to build your own applications. Yeah. So I
Arun,
mean,
I don't see any other questions in the Q&A section as of now. I think we have answered most of the question. Thank you so much, Arun, and thank you so much, everyone, for being a lovely audience today.